Yeah, well, turns out when you're on the road, internet can be an issue when you're sitting outside of a Hampton Inn and trying to borrow their internet.
When you're on the road and in the parking lot, sometimes things can get a little funky. All right, so we were just saying, for those who now only tapped into this part, it was a rather traditional feeling debate. A little boring. I thought J.D. Vance, I appreciated that he was better behaved than the way he speaks about these same issues when he's saying the same untrue things about Donald Trump and his opponent in public. I felt like Tim Walz was a classic Tim Walz. Now, he's been my governor for the last 6 years, so I'm very familiar with Tim Walz's way of speaking. He also has a way of not finishing his sentences with precision, so it's my own little quirky bickering with the way Tim Walz communicates. But I thought Tim Walz was classic Tim Walz. And these two guys, for some reason, decided as it was going on to be pitching that they were not bickering with each other. They were trying to have a debate. It seemed like they both wanted that style. So why does J.D. Vance behave differently in other environments, I think, is interesting.
And what's a little disturbing is J.D. Vance makes the insane and horrible ideas of Donald Trump more palatable and seemed slightly more sane because he's saying them in a coherent way, finishing his sentences and looks at the camera and doesn't...
And also doesn't tell you everything that he thinks. So that's
right.
My take. I think at a faith level, a faith leader level, I'm just saying the man is just dishonest about the things he's saying. Now, whether he's dishonest knowingly or unknowingly, I can't attribute it to him. But so many things were just simply not true that he was continuing to say. And frankly, that he continued to demonize people in this country who have the right to be in this country, other citizens of this country, and people who are in this country as migrants, continuing to do that whenever he could to blame other people's situations and struggles that we have as a nation on immigrants is despicable.
And it's wild that he continues to die on this hill of, even though the Haitians are here legally and did the right thing, followed the legal process, somehow they're still wrong for being here.
And somehow the people who made that law don't have the right to make those laws or put them into force, but he does. Right, so we'll get to that. I think we have some of our guests that are joining us, so we will continue to use the magic of the internet. And by the way, just like J.D. Vance and others can use the internet, no one is censoring us. If we fall off the Wi-Fi, that's just because there's a Wi-Fi glitch. It's not because the greatest threat to democracy is somehow Facebook.
Yeah.
Amazing response, which I'm sure we'll get to here in a little bit.
Yeah. And I love that Tim Walz said January 6th wasn't Facebook. Like, that was a great response to that.
Yeah. Should we start with Michael Waters?
I'd love to, yeah.
Reverend Michael Waters, glad to have you aboard here with us. Give us a minute to get you on the screen. By the way, I wish you all could see just the magic that this work all is out here. Thank you, Dan, for putting all this together. Well, there's Denise. Hi, Denise. That's not Michael Waters, but hey, there's Michael Waters. Hello. Oh, great shirt, Michael. Well done, my friend. Hey, did you have
Thank you so much. Glad to join you, Doug. Glad to be with you, Dan.
I know you were in a room with college students at Paul Quinn College at the start of the debate. I'm sure you were able to pick up some of it. Initial responses, Michael. How did you feel about what went on between the two people who want to be in the vice presidency of the United States?
The fact that J.D. Vance cannot offer a determinate answer as to whether children who have been raped should be forced to birth the child of their rapists was a singular moment for me in this debate. I mean, there are many other issues, obviously, of great concern. The inability to acknowledge that Donald Trump was wrong in stating that the election had been stolen, the inability to acknowledge that Donald Trump did, through his rhetoric, inspire the insurrection at the Capitol. I mean, there were many moments and many issues that we could speak to but frankly, as a father, and he did a good amount of time referencing his own family, but the fact that as a father, he cannot form his mouth to say that in no way should a child be forced to bear the child of their rapist, was the singular moment for me. And it speaks to the moral bankruptcy of the Trump Vance ticket. That despite their rhetoric, despite their claims to support family and support Americans, they are morally bankrupt. And frankly, it is saddening, it is infuriating, it is challenging to hear, and heartbreaking, certainly.
Michael, I know you've had a long day, so because we started the day together in Shreveport, Louisiana, traveling in buses and speaking to people and running events across the country. So it's been a long day. You've done a lot of work today. Um, so we won't keep you long, but I'm with you on that. That was the number of times that JD Vance was unwilling to say things that seemed reasonable was problematic. And abortion in this country being conflated with protection of people in vulnerable and dangerous situations continues to be one of the real tragedies of our inability in this country to speak about abortion in ways that feel like we all can speak openly and honestly about it. It's hard to know in a situation like this, was JD Vance a person who couldn't say what he wanted to say, or wouldn't say what he wanted to say, or did he say what he wanted to say? But if you're going to put yourself in the crucible of being in the office that he seeks, I agree with you that there was a demand that he rise above whatever that pressure point was to say
And Doug, the issue,
that he said what he meant.
yeah, and Doug, the issue for me is that, I mean, we're in Texas, that there are persons within our community, women, who have died or who have experienced near death experiences because of a lack of access to health care. And it is painful to know that this is true. And then also, when you add the racial dimension, to understand that Black women's mortality in terms of giving birth has already been high, but in fact is skyrocketing because of these policies. It really is a matter, Doug, Dan. It really is a matter of life and death, right? And sometimes that can sound like hyperbole, that this election will decide who lives and who dies. But in this election, that is absolutely the truth, that a Trump presidency is an existential threat. It is literally the difference between life and death. And that was affirmed once again in this.
Sorry, we're having just a little bit of connectivity issue. You still with us, Michael?
I'm still here if you can hear me.
Yeah, we got you. Sorry. Yeah, Michael, earlier today we were at a rally and you said something. You're encouraging people to register to vote. And one of the things you said that struck me was, don't just vote for the people that came before us and fought for the right to vote, but vote for the kids that aren't even born yet, who in 20 years will live in the world that we're creating right now. And say a little more about why this election is so critical for those future generations.
Certainly. I mean, the list is long. When we think about the care of our planet,